Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lyfebulb Live. We are super excited about this conversation. I'm wondering if I'm going to get it worded edgewise with these two, but it's a very, very important chat. We are going to be talking about transplant, transplant life, chronic fatigue, chronic everything, and how do you get through a transplant and live with it. So, Karin, I'm going to let you take it away and kind of talk to us a little bit about some pointers we're going to hit up.
Well, thank you, Annmarie, and I'm also very excited about this chat today. It is very personal to me. I have two organ transplants myself: kidney 12 years ago and pancreas 11 years ago. So I know what it's like to be told that you need a transplant. There's not much you know at that time, and you need to learn and listen to others. And one of the things that I really wanted at that time was to not just learn from doctors and nurses about the procedure and life afterwards, but I also wanted to talk to individuals who had been through what I was about to go through. And that's why we as Lyfebulb, we really had that as our goal from the start, to create a community and a platform for individuals who are living with an organ transplant, who are waiting to receive an organ transplant, and those who take care of individuals with transplants, as well as those who donate organs. So that whole community now has a place to go, and it's called Transplant Life with a Y. So please do check it out, and I hope that we can learn from you, and you can learn from us. So that's the first part that I'm excited to discuss and to share with you. And secondly, as someone living with two transplants, the actual surgery and the medications that I am on, that's not everything. I mean, as I got a second chance in life to really live a better life, I realized that it's not just taking a pill and you're good to go. There are many things that can happen to you from a perspective of complications to the very heavy medication, as well as comorbidities secondary to the transplant. So, and as a very wise doctor once told me, that it's not just about surviving, but it's also thriving. So living well with a transplant requires a lot of little hacks, life hacks. It requires technology. It requires advice and little gadgets and stuff that can help you live better. So we are also in the middle of an innovation challenge that we're running together with our partner, CSL Behring, a wonderful company that has also really supported us and worked with us to build Transplant Life, and is our partner in this innovation challenge, where we are welcoming applications globally. Individuals, companies, that not-for-profits and for-profits, that have ideas and concepts and real products that can help us on a daily basis. And these products can include ways to feel better with a transplant, such as the nausea that many of us have due to the medication. Many of us have hair loss due to medication. How do we treat that? We want to connect with others. We want to be financially more stable. This is a tough process to go through, and we need access to guidance. And of course, prevention of some of the cancers that are common for transplant patients, such as skin cancer. How do we protect our skin? So I'm looking forward to the conversation, but these are the two main topics to be discussed: transplantlife.com and our innovation challenge that you can find on our website, lyfebulb.com.
And I think they're all intertwined to this conversation. And this is a perfect time to introduce our little guest here. I want to bring Amanda on. And Amanda, I'm super excited to have you here. I've known you throughout the advocacy space for a long, long time, as well as your podcast partner, Kelly. I'm so excited to have you here, because I think hearing two different sides to a story is always so important. And because, you are a champion and we adore you so much on Lyfebulb. So, Amanda, can you just tell us real briefly a little bit about your story?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation. I'm Amanda. I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm 32 years old. I had a heart transplant 17 years ago when I was 15 years old. And currently I'm back on the transplant list for a heart and now this time a kidney for the first time. So I'm now going through the journey again as an adult and adding a new adventure with going to the kidney area because I know heart, but I never knew anything about kidney. So now I'm going through that journey of dialysis and that kind of stuff while waiting on the list at home.
And Amanda, your story is also beautiful because I know your mom really likes to be part of your caregiving and
Yes.
has been a very amazing advocate for you as well. And I think that that's quite lovely.
Yes.
Can you think, was there one thing that stood out to you that you found, a tool, a food, I don't know, whatever it is that you were like, I could never live without this with my transplant?
Oh, wow. Definitely, I would probably say the dietary lifestyle, finding recipes, heart healthy recipes. I was a 15-year-old kid that wanted to eat like everybody else. So to finding a place where I can find heart healthy recipes for myself so I could eat better to take care of this heart was so important to me. And it was something that I needed to help get me through because no one understood at my age. My mom didn't really cook. She just thought of low chicken noodle soup. So we had to figure out other ways for me to eat and be able to thrive with my transplant and finding the heart healthy diet to make me last.
To me, that's really important because that's not something that you get that educated by the hospital system. I was introduced to a nutritionist, but it was very marginal. It was a very brief encounter, and it's not enough to just get one lesson in nutrition. It's something that needs to be ingrained. It needs to be easily provided, and it's not that easy to shop when you are living with end-stage disease. But with the transplants, you also add the medication that adds not only the fact that you have to be careful with certain foods because they could give you an infection, right? Raw fish or, spinach that isn't cooked or mushrooms is my favorite thing. I used to love mushrooms and oysters, but can't have that anymore.
Yes.
So there are little tweaks to the diet to also help you feel better. Anything you've done to educate others?
Oh man, it's been a journey to help other people because everyone is different, right? And everyone's medication and regimen is very different. But just being able to work with them and teaching them how to read a food label, because that is so important. You have to know what you're putting in your body. So being able to help others read a food label, to actually go into the grocery store. Or I've had people like, I don't even know how to cook. I've never cooked in my kitchen. So even going to people's homes and helping them learn the basics of cooking seems to be helping people thrive and making sure they're not interacting with their medicine and that they can feel like they can go out to eat with a friend. Because part of the problem is too that people feel like, well, I can't go out to eat, I'm on this strict diet, but that isn't true. You can still go out to eat and enjoy that company and that social interaction while still eating foods that are okay for you.
So let's go to that because, again, that's something that I care a lot about. I mean, my life prior to COVID was really dominated by restaurants in many ways. I was also married to a restaurateur. So I had to go to restaurants, even if I didn't want to. And I struggled sometimes with choosing from the menu. So I would stick to the same thing. And it didn't bother me, but sometimes it bothered my surroundings that I was limiting myself. And for some reason, I don't know why people get upset when you're not eating, the whole menu or so any advice to young people, especially how to maybe talk to their peers about that?
Oh yeah, I've had that issue too because drinking is another one. I don't drink, and they're always like, well, why? They feel bad. I'm like, no, I can enjoy just the cranberry juice, and we can still have a great time. It's just explaining to them, look, I want to be out here. I want to enjoy this with you. I want to have this memory with you, but I'm just going to eat light just so I don't feel bad later because I don't want them to feel bad like, oh man, we went out and now you got sick. No, we're out, we're together. I found something that works, and so we can have this memory or this moment, or I can celebrate this birthday, anniversary, whatever with you while still being sure that I'm taking care of myself in the back end. So it's just being honest and transparent. I think that they'll eventually understand and start to get used to it.
I think it's hard too because I think some people are a little uncomfortable because they don't really understand. I mean, I clearly didn't have a transplant. Actually, I had more organs removed than put in, but I think that it just makes people a little uncomfortable, and they want to make sure that you're okay, and they don't really know how to say that exactly
Yeah.
sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's great. It's great for you to make them feel comfortable, but it's also making you feel comfortable, and you have to feel good. Karin, you and I have talked about how sometimes eating can set you back days if you eat the wrong foods, and not that it's the same thing, but there are foods, you know, when you're on certain medications with cancer that you can't have. And sometimes, not that the doctors don't mean to not tell you, but they forget. And that's a big part and why we need communication like this. It's so, so important. Which brings me to Transplant Life, because I know that you have been using it and you've been so amazing on there. And I know the journal's been really important to you. And I think this kind of all plays into that, don't you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. The journal is amazing. I'm able to track my food, my sleeping, even my mood if I'm having a bad day. But the fact that I have this place where everything's together, so if the doctor does ask or the dietitian asks, I have a place I can show them this is what I ate for the week and this is what's going on. And with dialysis, being able to track my weight to see if I fluctuated in fluid or not. So I love the journal. It helps keep everything, you know, together and tight, and so that I can have all the things I need for when they ask, because sometimes I'll forget, or, you know, app and the phone doesn't work, or there's not really an app for the phone. So to be able to have one place to have it all has been really great for me.
You know, it's such a resource. I feel that way too, because you can tell a story how you felt to your doctor, and the doctor will say, okay, well, how often, you know, can you when did this happen, and what was in relation to what? And here we actually have something that we can go, and it gives us more power. So I agree with you. I think the journal is a great asset for us as patients when we see someone who wants to treat us, but maybe doesn't know exactly what has been going on because they haven't been in our shoes.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think we also don't realize it. You know, being able to chart it, your headaches, your bowel movements, your eating, being able to chart it and actually see it is a lot different than saying, oh, I think on Wednesday I had a headache, or maybe on Thursday my stomach was a little off. When you see it in plain writing like that, it really does help. And Karin, you're right, it empowers you to be able to walk in there and not tell a story, more giving the facts. And I think advocating for yourself for any disease is so important.
You know, and I also think that it is good with the biometrics, with the numbers. It's really important because that really gives you that power when you see a treating physician or a nurse. But it's also something about the qualitative stuff, because by actually putting it in there, by talking about how you feel, you may give some of it away when you're sad or upset. So it gives you almost a resource just by putting it into your diary, and that's something that many people did in the past, but we don't anymore because we're using so much technology. But actually putting it in there, it makes you feel better. Makes you feel like you have a friend. maybe that's the point. And you know, so I really enjoy it too. You know, anything else when it comes to some of these other things that we want to prevent? For example, skin. Right? Think about technologies that, because it's not easy to get to the dermatologist now with COVID. You know, there could be companies out there, or there could be tools that help us prevent some of those ugly skin cancers that really can hurt us. You know, that's one of the worst things for us transplant patients. So, you know, I wonder if there could be any technologies out there that could help us analyze and prevent those consequences.
Yeah, that would be amazing, because that's so important for us to take care of ourselves after transplant, with just going outside in the sun, skin cancer, sunscreen, and all that kind of stuff. But like you said, with COVID, it's been hard to do any of our yearly annual appointments for transplant because of the risk. So it makes things a lot harder.
Yeah, and even maybe clothing, you know, things that can protect. Right? There are companies out there that could help us, you know, in even companies that prevent melanoma or protect against melanoma. So, you know, those companies could apply as well to our challenge. So that's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I think one of our subjects for this talk, Annmarie, was chronic fatigue.
I just was going to say that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, I know I'm tired, and there is a difference between when somebody says to you, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, but living with a chronic illness and having real chronic fatigue. The exhaustion is immeasurable. It truly is. And while I've never had a transplant, I do know what that feels like. But I think with transplant, it's probably amplified. How do you cope with that chronic fatigue and going through your day and trying to run the different various things that you both run?
Yeah, well, I think chronic fatigue is something that is so common, but it's not taken seriously enough, because it's hard to define. Again, if we were able to actually show it and define it and say there's the scientific reason for why we are like this, so the more we can document and the more we can actually say these are the times when we have that feeling and this is how it impacts us. I think, again, having that ability to show to others. And I also think that one opportunity for Transplant Life is to start putting out some research reports. What if we can show that 90% of everyone with a transplant actually feels like this more than once a week, maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week? And what is it that amplifies it? It's not just because you had a bad night. It actually comes on, sometimes, and it's certain times during the day, but we don't know how to quantify it yet. So we need to be more analytical, in my view, but it's just reality. Chronic fatigue is reality. And it's not always just combated with more sleep. It could actually get worse, right? What do you think, Amanda?
No, I agree. I think that when I tell people I'm tired, I'm like, oh, well, you just need to get some sleep. I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not a good night's rest isn't going to necessarily change the fact that I'm exhausted. It doesn't change the fact that in the morning I'm taking a handful of different pills with a handful of different side effects, and some of them are fatigue, and I can't take them at night because I need them during the day.
Right.
So there's things that are out of my control, and I'm just tired. So
I noticed that you take tacrolimus. I mean, I'm on tacrolimus. You take tacrolimus. So when I take tacrolimus, about 2 hours after that, I feel like my eyelids are shutting.
Yes.
And it's bad because it's at 9 a.m. or so, because I don't really take it at 7. And at 9 o'clock, I sit like this, and I just I need toothpicks to hold my eyes up. And that's I try to push my tacrolimus dose to late at night, because that's better than I can go to sleep. Then I have to, but then that means that I have to push it out in the morning. So, because it's supposed to be 12 hours in between. So I struggle those 2 hours after tacrolimus. I just wish we could do something about that, because I do think that's one of the big triggers in our case, at least.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely hard, because I take mine at 9 a.m. So by almost noon, I'm ready to be done, and I still have a whole day technically. So, but it's easier to take it 9 at night for me, because then by then I'm settling down and getting ready to go to bed, because it will exhaust you, like I said. So it's that chronic fatigue. Good night's sleep isn't going to fix it. It's definitely learning how to pace yourself, and I have to plan my life around my medication. So if I want to go out, then I have to push it later, because if not, I'm going to be falling asleep at the table. So it's figuring out how to find that balance so that you can have the energy to do what you want to do, but also take your medication and take care of yourself.
And the thing about medication is it's helping with our symptoms. For you guys, it's helping with survival, but the side effects can really be, affect your entire life, your entire day. And the only way we learn how to really deal with those side effects is from talking to each other. The doctors can give us some ideas on how to handle the side effects, but let's be truthful. This is how we get it, is by having a conversation. And, maybe someone needs to take it at 9 a.m. Maybe that helps them, or 10 p.m. Maybe that helps them. It's just talking to each other and figuring out a solution.
Amanda, you just gave me an idea, because I'm so dumb. I haven't thought about what you were doing. I should just later at night, and then I could, it's better for me to be a little bit tired over lunch versus being tired like the first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And if I take it at 7, 8, like I do now in the evening, then at 9, when I'm supposed to be reading a story or playing or doing something that I'm still up, I'm really tired. So I'm going to push my medication out a little bit.
There you go.
Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome.
This is exactly what Transplant Life is about, right?
Yeah. It also will help with nausea, in that sense.
Exactly.
Actually, good thing.
No, but that's exactly what Transplant Life has been in the forums alone. People asking questions, people having these conversations, or do you feel this, or have you noticed this? And people getting ready to start their journey, they can now look and see what maybe they have to deal with later, so they can prepare for it. Because the key thing that I've heard repeatedly about Transplant Life is that I wish I had this when I was going through my transplant, because it's helped so many people. And even now a bunch of us are all post, we're still helping each other. We're still talking. At least we feel less alone, because there's someone else in the country who feels the same way or struggling the same way we are. And that's what I love about the forums, is that we can have all these open conversations regardless of your organ, because we have different organ transplants, but we still relate and have some of the same symptoms.
Exactly. You make me almost cry when you say that. It really feels good. No, it's so true, because I
made me a little jealous for my disease areas, because I don't have that. But
Yeah, we need to build one. We need to build one. But it's so true because, even when you don't have anyone to talk to about your situation all day, and then you go on Transplant Life in the evening, and then you see all these people who have similar issues, it really feels like, I have a little bit of a dual feeling in that I feel so sad for others who feel the same way,
Yeah.
and I go, oh no, I wish I could take that on and just, I can feel that way and they don't feel, because I'm very solutions oriented. I like to solve problems, right? So I'd like Amanda not to feel tired if I could take on more of that. But then I go, okay, well, at least she understands me. But it's, yeah.
There is another part to this whole, platform that I think is important. I know I get sick of telling my people about how I feel about things because they're not there with me.
Yeah.
And while they want to support me and, give me love, I still feel like I'm a complainer to them because they don't, you come to a platform like this, and when you're talking about how you're exhausted from your medication and people understand you, there is a different sense of connection. There really, truly is,
That's so true. That's so true, Annmarie. You don't want to, even with someone who doesn't know exactly how you feel, if you complain to them or complain, you're not complaining. You're just stating facts, but at least you're putting it on to them what you're feeling.
Yeah. It's a way to, you're expressing yourself, and you're not trying to upset them or worry them, but in the same breath, you're just saying, hey, I'm not feeling very well today, and this is what's going on.
Yeah.
But to have that community that understands, like, today was a bad day for me too, and it's just it's better and a better connection when you have someone that just truly understands.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd like to take it to the next level, is that person who listens to you says, yeah, I understand you, and this is what I did to fix it. Right?
Yes.
So that's where Transplant Life needs to go. And in the meantime, we have the Innovation Challenge, which is kind of separate. But imagine if we had an innovation engine on Transplant Life, where we had all these big issues, we could put them all into, an engine, as I said, and then out pops all these answers, and we go and just follow those. I think that would be amazing. And I think that's where we're going. The power of the crowd and the power of innovation sitting in those who are using, or those who are surviving with the transplant and thriving eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I can say that I think this has been a very important and beautiful conversation. And, if you, excuse me, out there know anybody who is living with a transplant, looking for a transplant or a care partner, please send them to us, send them to transplantlife.com so that they can connect with other people going through what they're going through. And everyone knows somebody, right? So you must know somebody with a product and innovation, something that can help those living with a transplant. You never know. So I say share, share, share.
Thank you. Thank you, Annmarie.
Thank you, Amanda, for joining us. And I look forward to seeing more posts from you on everywhere.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course.